please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome. Is anyone here for public participation? We're all here for agenda business, all right, and nobody online. I don't have any announcements. Any announcements from the group? All right, so we'll move on to department operating budgets. The first budget is 161, the clerk. And that's Town Hall 2. Amy Warfield. This is your last one of these.
Last one. Thank you.
We can bring her back.
No thanks.
Write-ins.
So you do want to introduce your budget, and then we'll,
Sure.
Sure.
My budget is pretty kind of standard. It doesn't change that much. There is a decrease from last year, even outside of the elections, of 1.49%, which was, again, just the biggest bulk of it is election stuff. And then there is a decrease because of my retirement. So, the major, in terms of increases, anything that is increased, one of the biggest areas is in contracted services with the shredding of documents. Due to a number of department heads leaving or retiring, all of that stuff that they bring down to us and to the archives is looked through. We get destruction permission. And right now, we're currently sitting on 17 boxes of stuff from accounting that we were waiting for the audit report, the approval of the audit report by the select board, that we can now then destroy. So going forward into FY '26, we anticipate that there'll probably be another 25 to 30 boxes worth of stuff. Everything that comes out of a department head's office eventually, unless it's permanent record, gets destroyed. And we use shredding. You can't just throw that stuff in the garbage and hope nobody pokes through it. So that's the increase in capital and contracted services. And then the other thing is elections. Like I mentioned, the elections budget will be down because for FY '26, we only have one election. This is always confusing sometimes to people because in the year 2026, there will actually be 3 elections, but in the fiscal year, there's only one, the town election in 2026. And so those are, again, pretty much standard, all the standard expenses for personnel, for the clerks and wardens for the day, for police, for custodians, for early voting, those kinds of things. I also do put in, if we have to use Grandview Farm, we have to pay for custodial services at Grandview. So we just never know where we're going to be doing it. But that is something that if we do it here, we don't have to pay them to set up the place. We do it, my staff does it. And then under elections also, there's always all the materials and supplies and maintenance that has to go in. All of our equipment is tested by the vendor. In fact, today was the day to do the maintenance on the machines. Tomorrow is the machine test for the ballots. But those are all costs that are pretty regularly in the budget. So I don't know if there's any questions or subcommittee.
Subcommittee,
We voted in favor, 2-0.
thank you. Any questions?
Shredding, the clerk's office has offered shredding to residents occasionally.
Yeah.
Is that included in the shredding contract?
That is included in the contracted services. That was put in, something that I put in the budget 4 years ago now. We've been doing it for that long.
It seems useful to me to continue that. I don't I don't assume it's a big amount of cost either.
No, it's about, it ranges depending on which vendor we get and how much mileage we have to pay them. It's between $600 and $900 for the day. But yeah, they will shred everything, and then we can even supplement if we have shredding from the town that's available and it's not filled, the truck is not filled, then we can do some of our own shredding too, and that would be just included in that cost.
Great. I guess with respect to shredding, does IT ever shred discs? Do they have things that they dispose of?
Yes, that's also included in this budget. The archives actually takes all of the equipment type things like hard drives, thumb drives, that kind of stuff, and we take it to our regular paper shredder, which is Highland over in Woburn, and they also do that kind of destruction as well.
All right, thanks.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi. So sorry to see you're going, but related to that, the new clerk is listed coming in as step 6 in the budget there, or is that?
No, the new clerk will be coming in at step 8, they'll be AMP. That other position, the administrative assistant, 6-1, is an open rec I have right now.
But I'm looking at the budget for, on town clerk line, it is category 8, step 6.
Oh, well, no, that is my current. The new one, the new clerk will come in at either 8-2 or 8-1 or 8-2.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Then is the budget we have from online incorrect then? Is that?
I don't know what
I
was.
just downloaded it today.
You can look.
Because we looked that up, and I didn't know whether you guys were changing that. This is just,
What's your grand total number on your first page on your budget?
on elected and appointed.
The grand total on the first page.
501, 532?
Right, that's what I have. I'm wondering what Amy has, because she has a different clerk salary.
Yeah, I have 501, 532 as well. It's 119.
But the budget, that budget assumes town clerks at step 6, so how is that consistent then, I'm wondering?
Probably needs to be adjusted if that's the case.
Something,
I guess I was told,
something isn't matching.
yeah, I was told that it was in red on the version that I have because that's mine and it would be different
Yeah.
with the new person coming in.
It's supposed to
So I didn't,
Which makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
be 2.
I mean, that's something that's usually handled by the budget analyst.
Right.
We
It's
don't.
just this
Do you
number.
do you have any insight into that, Sam?
Sam?
You should use the mic, Sam.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks for conveniently being there.
The answer man.
Hi, John couldn't be here tonight, so I will step in. I think in this particular case, instead of putting in a number at 8-1, in case we put somebody at like 8-2 or 8-3, depending on whatever that comes to, I think we just kept it at where Amy's spot is, and, that would be certainly an upper bound, but I don't know what the rules are for onboarding an elected person and how they fit into the AMP plan for like where they would come in at.
Okay, so it's sort of purposely conservatively budgeted now, and it's meant to be that step 6 number.
I would think so, that's where it's.
I just wanted to make
that's
sure
where
I
it
was
would be for now.
intentional.
Yeah, that's the number that's in there right now. I didn't get any word from John about lowering it or changing it.
Okay, all right. And then sort of related to that, I'm just wondering if there would need to be, this might go under MELT or something, if there would be additional expenses for a new clerk being trained and so forth, that,
Well, that's already in the MELT budget. So
That-
all the Melt has always covered all of the conference registrations. The summer class is the $1,200 for the NEMC class, and any conferences are included in that $1,200 for that.
So that would cover any training that a new clerk would need to have.
It would cover the conferences and available training from outside sources.
Okay, right, okay. All right, great, thanks a lot.
Doug?
Steve?
We did also have a conversation at our subcommittee meeting where we talked about what was the transition plan in terms of like if Amy needed to be called back for a particular piece of time, because typically there's usually some kind of slot that is allocated for that line item. So I'm wondering if that might be included in this particular salary line. We saw that on the conservation budget where the previous conservation director had a line item for a few hours, like 20 hours or something like that, as a carryover in case they needed them. So I'm wondering if this particular 8.6 is left over because of carrying that transition. We didn't specifically ask, but we would have to clarify it if we wanted to.
And that was something that John and I have been trying to meet on. Our schedules just haven't jived, so I think we're going to do that tomorrow afternoon. So he would have an answer for you then about, I was told that the clerk's budget is in red because it's going to have some pluses and minuses, so.
Cheyenne?
Thank you, Doug. To Steve's point, we did discuss that Amy may be brought back sort of in consultation or for a few, like 20 hours or to aid in the transition with whoever comes in for the new clerk's position. And that was why the line item was kept in there. Also, it's not clear as to what the new step would be. So it would presumably be less than the 8.6 position. So that line was just kept, as far as my understanding goes.
Just if there's a meeting yet to be had about some of these conditions, is
Yeah.
there enough reason for us to
I was going to ask
wait?
you.
Yeah, we
hold off on
Be
vote?
happier postponing this and coming back to the number once we have a number.
Yeah, in particular, I'd like to understand why the new clerk would be starting at anything other than step one.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess I would also suggest if there's a ongoing contract for your assistance later, I think that should be a separate line item.
Right,
I would agree.
It could be a consulting line item.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Move to, I don't know, we actually need a move to defer voting on it until some other time, or can we just do it?
Make a motion. I'll make a
We
motion.
might as well. Sure.
I'm certain, or just 2 weeks?
Let's say 2 weeks.
All right.
Let's
Move
give it
to,
2 weeks.
Postpone voting on the clerk's budget until, for 2 weeks.
April
4th?
Third.
3rd.
3rd. Thank you.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Chris Campbell's with us, so we'll go through a roll call. Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chris Campbell's right here.
Oh, but you're logged in.
Chris Delaney's right here.
It's on there.
Who is Chris?
that?
That's
None of
the
our-
decoy, Chris.
It's none of our Chris's. All right.
Is that Chris at PCAT?
All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? 14-0-0
Not me.
to postpone. Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome.
And now we'll move to 162 Board of Registrars.
Yep. And again, Board of Registrars stays pretty static. For those who are new, the whole purpose of the Board of Registrars, it's regulated in Mass General Law. They are the ultimate representative of the voters' rights and protection by the town in terms of voting. So they, in the past, have been the ones that actually would handle voter registration. Now, because we do it via electronic system, they kind of just oversee it. I also have them at the polls to oversee any voter questions, that kind of stuff, and work with that. So they are paid a stipend in Burlington. And then the clerk is also a member of the Board of Registrars, and the clerk gets a stipend salary based on the number of registered voters, which currently it's at $900. It's $50 for every 1,000 registered voters. And the Mass General Law reference is right there as well. So that one pretty much stays the same. The other expenses, under expenses, the thing that usually goes up, like everywhere, is dealing with mailers and postage. The biggest thing that we mail out is, 10,000 copies of the census to every household in Burlington. That is, again, mandated by state law. And it's one of the things that gives Massachusetts kind of a leg up on everybody else in the country, because we actually know who we have in town. Most other states depend on a federal census every 10 years and an augmented every 5. But Massachusetts is kind of unique, but there's a cost with it. So that's the only other thing, and everything else, all the other expenses pretty much remain the same.
Any questions? Deb?
Do the census forms have to be mailed? Like, is there any, I know we have a population that's diverse and it's,
It is required by Mass General Law to either mail it or to send out census takers to every address. So we mail it out. We do allow people to mail it back in because the law is unclear about how you're supposed to get it back in. And I started about 10 years ago putting on the bottom of the census form and we set up a mailbox called census@burlington.org. And we get about 10 to 15% of the census forms back electronically. But we still have to print them out because by law, we're supposed to have a printed copy of them here.
you do such a good job with getting other things done electronically, I just regret it.
Yeah, no. That would be something you could talk to our state rep and state senator about, that maybe they could look at automating that whole process. But for right now, that's what we're
So we
have to do.
actually cause more paper by electronically sending it back?
Well, it causes more paper on our part because we do have to print them out. I'm working with the the legal counsel at Secretary of State's office to say, well, again, because the law is unclear, and any other record, like your minutes and that kind of stuff, because we only deal with those electronically, we don't have to print them out anymore. So it's my question and position with the legal counsel is, well, if we're getting the census back electronically, why do we have to print them? I can keep an electronic file, we can tag them, that kind of stuff. But that would be something that we could all work with our rep or senator and get somebody going on it.
Anybody else? Anything else?
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion to approve the Board of Registrar's budget, that's $17,150, correct?
We have a subcommittee recommendation?
I'm sorry,
Oh, sorry, 2-0.
I was going to be better. All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? 14-0-0. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. So I will talk with John and have them talk to Stephen about the
Thank you.
salary?
Yeah.
Okay,
And we'll schedule a follow-up meeting after that.
yeah. Sounds good. Thank you
Next up,
very much.
Thank you. Planning? It's budget 175. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Yes,
How are you?
I'm well. So just kind of an update on our budget. So the biggest change that we have seen is that we had added an additional position a few years ago called assistant to the planner. We're trying to elevate our clerk, who is in the BMEA and goes above and beyond what anybody, she keeps us together, and so we've been trying to elevate her position. And so we tried to add this position to get her out of the union, and I have spoken with JD about this, John Denizio. He said, honestly, the best way is to try and get her elevated within the union is the easiest pathway forward. So we are eliminating that position from the budget, which is why you see a negative 10% in my budget. The other things to note that are happening in our department, so we have a senior planner position that we have kind of changed around. We're calling it the assistant planning director. And the BMEA, not the BMEA, the AMP plan kind of did a rejiggering based upon kind of looking at the salary assessment. And so we are able to offer that person more money. One of the things we're having a hard time doing there is that if you are somebody that is, the senior planner position are the same kinds of applicants that could go and be a planning director in a rural or small community. So it's really hard to find people for that position, and I have been getting applications for it, but they're out of college, they're from across the country and don't know what town meeting is. And so that has been a challenge, and you'll see it around the state. You'll see senior planner positions are hard to come by, so we're trying a new marketing approach. We're offering more money, and so that is exciting and definitely in the works. The other items that have changed, on the expense side, our AppGeo subscription, so that is our online mapping tool that shows all of the zoning layers and overlays and all kinds of geographic information visually. So that actually went down to 4,000. And then we did increase the GIS special projects because updating zoning maps is becoming more of a thing now. And so I'm going to be needing to use some of that money for them to work with AppGeo to help us do that. The only other changes in MELT are kind of swapping money around. It ends up being equal, but it's, anything that's been added is just to cover for, inflation. But other than that, anything else you guys have to, I'm open to any questions you guys may have about our budget.
Subcommittee.
Subcommittee voted 2-0 in favor.
Any questions? Roger?
And the use of consultants, are consultants more expensive, or are you using them more?
I think they are generally more expensive than they have been in the past. They're equal, they're more expensive. We're seeing things.
And we're getting our money's worth, presumably?
I would agree, yes, we are. Right now, we're working on finalizing our hazard mitigation plan, so we're working with the fire chief, Connerty, and this is a plan that we are required to do by federal law to update every 5 years, looking at different, hazards in the town. So weather hazards, flooding, fires, to make sure that we have a plan in place. And that gets submitted to the state, and then it gets actually submitted to FEMA. And having one of those on our books helps us lower our insurance costs. So that's something we're doing right now. We're working with consultants, and they've been excellent to work with. So So yes, I would agree, yes, we are getting our money's worth on that one.
Yeah, I think when I talked to DPW, Brian White mentioned something about that kind of hazard evaluation, and he found it kind of annoying, but he did sort of recognize it was important.
Yes, it's actually, it's required. We actually have to do it. Yeah.
Deb?
Hi. So I just want to make sure I'm clear on the staffing.
Yep.
So the assistant to the planner position eliminated, and the assistant planning director is open?
That is open, so that's a renaming of so we had a senior planner position.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to rebrand it to attract new talent. And so that's why we're calling it the assistant, basically assistant planning.
So that's an estimate, I mean, we don't know for sure. if
Correct.
Step is, okay, so
Correct,
that's
correct.
just a.
Yes, correct. Yep,
on that.
yep, that is correct.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So how long has that position been open?
It's been open for a long time.
Like over a year, right?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, we've been trying. I've been getting people out of college.
You actually took an interview with.
I've been taking interviews, and we've been, yeah, so it's been a tough slog. I'm not alone in the state looking for a senior planner position, but I'm hoping that rebranding, we are able to offer them more. I mean, again, we're competing with smaller towns that are looking for planning directors, right? So it's, there's competition there. So this is our latest effort to get it through. I know that we've passed the mixed district. There's a lot of implementation that has to happen there. I'm hoping interest rates go down, we're gonna see more things happen, and I'm already feeling it over my department. We need somebody. So,
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Chris?
So looking at the admin assistant one, I noticed the salary didn't change. Has there been a no staffing? I mean, literally it's the same from last year?
So our administrative assistant one, she is maxed out. Is
Okay.
there, yeah, she's at the top of her step. Jen Gelinas, she's outstanding. And so she's maxed out. And so that's why, and so the other thing that, she's felt is that, I think it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, the BMEA changed something with regards to administrative assistants. And so if you were an administrative assistant in an office with 2 admins, there was an administrative assistant 2 and an administrative assistant 1. And because we only have 1 clerk, she feels like she was essentially demoted because of that change, which I can understand. She does a lot for our office, and, I really feel like she should be recognized in some way. So we're working on it.
Other questions?
Motion to approve?
I have one that it just, someone asked me about it a couple of weeks ago, and I'm not sure this is the right place to ask about it. But the sculpture park is a subcommittee of the planning board.
Correct.
Where is that money?
So I think they are not as part of our budget. That's a question for, I think, Paul and JD. I think they have set up an account somewhere. I think they're treating themselves like a nonprofit, but I don't know.
Look behind you.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Sam to the rescue. Yes.
Hi, Sam Hockenberry again. I help manage the budget for the sculpture park, so it's a revolving account. We did set up there was a special town meeting account for a certain amount of funding, and there was an account set up for the donations of the pig sculpture fundraiser. Those dollar amounts then ended up, we collapsed it all back into the regular revolving account for the sculpture park that was created when the sculpture park committee was first established.
Okay, and so what's the...
Who's the authority?
Who's the authority? Like, who's the authority? Who approves funds from that? How does that... To my knowledge, it's the only subcommittee we have that has money like that. I'm not sure. I'm just confused.
I work with Barbara. She submits the invoices. I do the processing on that, and I submit that to accounting, and it gets rolled into the accounting department's part of the invoice warrant every week. So anything that like the accounting department pays out of, it gets processed through that, and so the accountant signs off on those things.
So I think usually revolving accounts have attached to the account when it's created, whoever it is who has the authority to spend that money. Is there a name attached?
I know JD had given me permission to process and work on that, but I don't know if,
All right.
if that was,
JD,
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I know that Jen helps her, but I don't actually know.
Any other questions? Oh,
Just to kind of follow up on that, the July 4th committee, so kind of, I don't even know whether that's part of our budget. And we get kind of an accounting of the accommodated accounts, what's in there, what was spent last year, and what have you. So we do get detail in that. So I don't know if we should, again, look at structuring the sculpture park in a similar way.
Similar to the-
Where
Yeah.
there have been numerous appropriations by the
Sure.
town into it, but also public donations or sponsorships.
Okay.
so that committee, who's the authorizing authority? Is that the selectmen or-
Selectmen. There's generally one appointment under the selectmen, but there's a committee of
Right.
2 or 3 people. But generally,
Yeah.
Mr. Runyon used to be it, and now I think it's
Okay.
That sounds clearer than the sculpture park one. But
Yeah,
Right, well, at least we get,
that's a,
counting as we appropriate.
it's a good model.
Each year.
It sounds like a good model.
Yeah, it does.
It sounds like an excellent model.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. Good point.
thanks.
Okay.
Helpful.
Other questions?
move to approve?
Second.
This is for $451,458, is that?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? 1400. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Next up is 510, the Board of Health.
Hi, good evening. I'm Susan Luminello, Director of Public Health.
And I'm Ed Weiner, I'm Chairman of Public Health.
Thank you for coming. So I guess this year we're asking the departments to present first, so.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start. Everything is level funded, except for the salaries and the accommodated account of mosquito control. So that is the only increase that we've had in the overall budget.
Okay.
And mosquito control is due to an agreement and cooperative work with the Conservation Commission, who needed some stream cleaning done, and we could get it through the Board of Health's contract rather than for them to go out on bid.
Okay.
So the Mosquito Control Association does ditch maintenance, and last year, the Conservation Commission had a request from us to have mosquito control, do some ditch maintenance in a certain area. And when we looked at the budget for this year, we found that we could get 12 hours of ditch maintenance over the year for a lot less than it cost us to do that one ditch maintenance project.
Okay. Subcommittee?
2-0.
Thank you. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi.
Hi.
So this Triton grant that we have, it looks like it dropped from 445 going to 300K is the expectation? Am I reading that right?
Well, no, so the approved amount has been 300,000, and we've been, for the last 2 years, they've been giving us the additional 115,000 per year. So the total grant that we have for this fiscal year is 445,000. And that is between Burlington, Lexington, and Wilmington, Burlington being the lead agency on that grant. So right now, we are fully staffed. We have 6 positions, one full-time, the rest of them part-time positions that assist us and the other towns with anything we may need, from inspections to communicable disease investigations, as well as doing projects that go above and beyond.
So what I'm wondering is, it sounded like you received 445 this year.
Right.
And your expectation in the cover letter is it's going to be 300 next year.
Right.
What I'm wondering is, how does that fairly substantial reduction. How does that affect you?
I don't think that that's going to affect us much, even if it reduces to the 300,000. So typically, we've been, in the last 2 years, we've been giving money back on that grant because we can't always keep a full-time staff. Right now, we are full-time, but, you know, they're part-time positions, people leave, and they come and go, so.
So you've been underspending in
And
the
we've been-
past, so
Right.
fitting within the 300?
But that-
Yes.
But that passes back to the town, not back to the state.
No, the town gets, for being the lead
Lead
agency,
agency.
a portion.
Portion of it.
Okay,
That's
all
what-
right. I just wanted to make sure you weren't all of a sudden going to have to cut back on something that you were counting on in the past.
No, unless that they don't come through with the 300,000 and then.
Right, then it
yeah.
would be less. Sure. Okay, thank you.
Questions? Roger?
Just a little one, there's a number in red about a recording clerk under elected position. Any particular reason it's in red? Hours or?
I don't know. That was put in there by the accounting office. I have no idea why they put that in red, but that's,
I'm guessing that's because that may be a new line item.
It was in red last time.
It was?
yeah, we've
Yeah.
always had it. I don't,
mind.
yeah.
Sam?
Always wanted to last year's budget.
DNF?
I'm not sure, it might just be a Word document, needs to be updated.
It was new last year.
Colors.
Okay, sorry to ask such minuscule questions, but usually when there's a red flag, you've got to go.
No, we see that, we've seen that across like a bunch of town hall two budgets, and we're not clear why that happens. It'd be nice if it were just one color, or there'd be a color coding scheme printed.
That's good.
Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding hazardous waste, so I see last year you were budgeted for 50,000, you're looking for 50,000 again this year. But year-to-date, as of the end of January, spent 16,000. I'm trying to understand, my understanding is there's only one hazardous waste day.
No,
There's
two.
two.
Okay, there's two. So even if there's two, I'm trying to understand how are we going to spend, you know, the additional 50,000? You've already had two. You've already had two, right?
No.
No.
Fiscal year?
No,
You had one.
we have one in April.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
okay, so you've had one.
Yeah.
So, I'm just trying to understand where that,
You can't predict household hazardous waste day. You can't predict what comes, you can't predict how many people will be there. This last household hazardous waste day, for some reason, and we have no idea why, there were fewer cars than we've had in the past. We've had instances where we have come right up to the 50,000 and sometimes a little bit over, and we were able to get the money without going to reserve fund transfer that was covered. But we have no way. We could have a huge household hazardous waste day coming up in April. We have no idea. Or we could have a smaller one and cars come in with materials that will cost the town a lot of money to get rid of. So $50,000 has been the traditional number there, and we have been able to work through that. But as things go up and down, and the number of people who would take advantage of it, and the types of things that are collected, we just don't know.
okay, thank you, makes sense.
Additionally on that, too, we rely on the state contract to get contractors to come and do the household hazardous waste. In the past few years, that's been going up and up and up. So we've managed to kind of get them locked in for the dates for this year. So I don't think we're going to hit that 50,000 this year. But next year, when the contracts change, they might go up in price. We've seen Clean Harbors, which is on the statewide contract, come in pretty high. That's not one of the ones we use, but if anybody drops off of that contract, then it's going to be, the price of it may go up. So we want to make sure that we have enough to cover everybody who comes. Otherwise, like Dr. Weiner was saying, we might have to turn people away mid-event if we don't have enough funds. We try to keep track of it while the event is going on to make sure we're not going to go over.
And we've made a decision over the past 36 years that I've been involved in this, that we won't turn people away. We'd rather get the stuff out of Burlington rather than not, and then go for reserve fund transfer for the few $1,000s that we would need. But it would be bad situation, bad public health, bad science to just leave it, because you know where it's going to end up? On the side of the road.
David?
Very small question. On the contracted services, and this is itemization, miscellaneous, you have Title V, environmental, tobacco compliance, what have you. Your area handles the tobacco compliance, where the police handle the alcohol?
That's correct, yeah, we have tobacco regulations. So right now, we have a grant for that, so we also got the, I think it's $24,000 grant for 3 years for tobacco. So one of the people in the shared services office does our tobacco retail and our tobacco compliance inspections. We did used to have to subcontract that out. So in the event that we didn't have her, she left, or we didn't have anybody at a certain time, we may have to have somebody come in to do that. So, yeah, so we do the retail tobacco inspections as well as the compliance checks for sales. And the Title V on that, so we don't have much Title V septic systems in Burlington. We do, we still have them, so if somebody,
Not Burlington, meaning town property?
residential property.
Okay.
So if a residential property needs to replace their system
Yeah.
and they can't tie into the town system, then we have to let them replace the existing septic tank. We don't have the expertise in-house to do that, so we have to subcontract that type of work out. It is the responsibility of the Board of Health to make sure that they're putting in the correct system, that that it's at the correct, it's going to drain well, and there's lots of things to check. You have to look at the plans.
It's our oversight of that type of.
It's our oversight of that, yeah,
How they're doing it.
right.
Not really the payment, but we have to oversee.
We have to oversee it, yeah, yeah. And that gets to be very expensive. We haven't, knock on wood, we haven't had any in a while, so that, again, that contract budget usually ends up coming back to the town, but I just like to have it there in the event that we did have one, we would need a lot of funds to kind of cover that. Yeah, yeah.
Anybody else? Oh, Chris?
So along the tobacco compliance inspections, have you thought at all with budget constraints if question 2 passes in Burlington and how that could apply here? The marijuana?
But
Right now, that's an interesting question. I'm just going to leave it an interesting question. This is an approved recreational drug in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which the Board of Health does not regulate. It's very much like alcohol. We don't regulate alcohol. So will be there compliance checks for alcohol? Well, that's done by the police. There aren't going to be compliance checks under the Board of Health purview if question 2 passes. I don't see that.
Thank you.
But
Roger?
state does. I mean, all the regulations around that.
That's a
state
the Cannabis Commission,
Cannabis Commission.
Commission has their own
Absolutely.
regime.
yeah. I don't know if they do compliance checks, but they have regulations.
Deb?
Hi, can I ask a quick question about the overtime? The first line item, for Board of Health staff to attend Board of Health meetings, is that like the state Board of Health meetings? or-
No. For the professionals who are on salary, those professionals, the director and the associate director, and the environmental engineer who come to regularly to Board of Health meetings, that's part of their duties, is to come to a Board of Health meeting. However, if we have to have the health agent or the associate health inspector or others who are bound by the contract, the union contract, we have to pay them overtime to be at meetings.
Anyone? Oh, Ed?
I'm going to attempt to ask the least financially significant question of the night. Is the $150 for a certified pool operator because the state requires you to stipend somebody for the waiting pool?
The union contract does. It
Okay.
requires the stipend if you're a CPO,
And why are there 2 lines? So
because we have 2 CPOs.
there's 2 of them?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Keep that waiting pool going.
Yes,
Cheaper than a regular pool.
please do.
Anybody else?
Motion to approve?
Second?
So I think we're actually,
Oh, we have 3 votes.
we have 3 votes.
So
Yes, we
motion
have the
to
Board of
approve the
Health.
operating budget.
The operating budget's $836,133. All in favor? Oh,
800?
no, am I wrong?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Right, I was thinking of the, I was looking at the wrong line.
It's math.
So motion to approve the mosquito control.
Well, we got to vote this one first.
Oh, I thought we
All in
did.
favor? We stopped in the middle.
Sorry, I interrupted.
That's all right. No? Anybody opposed? Abstain? All right, that's 14-0-0.
Motion to approve the mosquito control.
Do we have specific discussion about mosquito control? Anybody have any questions about that? And do we have a second?
Second?
So that's $50,700. All in favor of killing the mosquitoes? Opposed? And abstain. So that's 14-0-0. Now we go to the hazardous waste collection, $50,000.
I'll make a motion for the 50,000.
Second?
All in favor of $50,000 for hazardous waste collection? Opposed? Abstain? 14-0-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be well, everybody.
Thank you. He's outside.
Perfect timing.
So next we have library,
Reading.
budget 610.
So now you know what happens with my wife when I go to a party. She's got to collect me from the other room as well. I'm sorry. My name is Michael Wick. I'm the library director at the Burlington Public Library. Would you like me to start by introducing the budget?
Sure, please.
So what we have is a budget at a 2.96% increase. So you'll find that the salaries increased 3%. You'll see a significant decrease in overtime. So that decrease in overtime was because we were working with the town administration, who had asked us to come in at a lower than our level funded budget. So looking at that, we have reduced our summer Saturdays and our Sundays hours for the reference staff. So there's 2 reference staff that we have on these overtime days in order to expand programming. It's something that individuals in the community have asked us to increase our programming, so we were working on that. And so in order to have that programming, we have to have a person running it, and then we have to have a person at the desk running our public service desk. So what we have done in order to meet this budget is we've decreased that individual from that position. There will still be 1 reference librarian working, but I can talk a little bit later about how we hope to be able to deliver some programming over the summer and on Sundays. The expenses, you'll see most of those are level funded. There's an increase in contracted services, 3.15%. It's fairly small. The 2 items that are increased are our membership to the Merrimack Valley Library Consortium. So we have annual membership fees that we pay, and so those are increasing. I would anticipate that those are going to increase again next year. For 10 years, they had been level funded, and that's something that is pretty impossible to do. So that was actually kind of artificially level funded for those many years, and the consortia is working at rectifying that, so we're seeing some increases, and I anticipate that we'll see increases next year and smaller increases than years following. Our constant contact list here, or I'm sorry, our line item here increased as well because we've been fairly successful with our programming and marketing. So we have over 5,000 individuals or accounts that are registered for our newsletter. So that's increased the cost of that account. You'll see that several line items here are zeroed out as well. Those items have been zeroed out for the past couple of fiscal years, but I'm keeping them here because we want to bring back the funding to these. The reason why these had been zeroed out previous years was because we had, 2 years ago, 2 fiscal years ago, we had created the programming and marketing position, and in order to fund that somewhat, we reduced those, and the library trustees have used the state aid funds that we receive to supply those funds instead. Same thing with last year. We had around this current fiscal year, we had a part-time paraprofessional position in the children's department that was upgraded to a full-time professional position. So this would then be at a higher pay grade. And so that, again, necessitated us to keep these items down and use state aid monies in order to fund these lines. What I would like to do is bring this back next fiscal year for FY27 and have these items fully funded, and that's the anticipation. Our materials and supplies, there's no change. And then the same with our melt. Moving on to special accounts for books and periodicals, it's 2.80% increase. The reason why we've increased that is because we have a mandatory 12% expenditure of materials, of circulating materials from our library budget in order to make certification. And so that certification allows us to, for residents of Burlington, to secure materials from other libraries in the state of Massachusetts. So any of y'all can go to Boston, you can go to Bolton, you can go anywhere throughout Massachusetts and get a library card. If we weren't certified, you would not be able to do that. Same thing is certification and our state aid. That also secures our state aid funding. So having that 12% number is one of those requirements. There's other requirements related to having a steady increase through a formula of our municipal, annual municipal funds, as well as a minimum operating hours requirement, just to explain that a little bit more. So that is the library budget. The facilities budget, I know usually comes along with this. I will admit that the facilities budget is not something that I have control over in terms of determining increases. These numbers are usually given to me, and this year they were actually put into the spreadsheet before I even got to it. And so they told me this is what we want through facilities. Previously, we had removed the facilities budget from our annual operating budget for the exact reason that I just discussed as it relates to state aid. We don't want to have that 12% minimum expenditures for circulating materials. That's going to go up quite a bit once you have the facilities expenses included in the annual budget. So removing those allows us to save some money. So I do want to just reiterate that the trustees are going to be using some state aid funds in order to provide the monies that we've removed in order to try and meet guidelines in a discussion with the town administrator. So it looks like we're going to be using about $25,000 from our state aid funds. We typically receive, well, this year we've received $53,000. Previous fiscal year, we received $53,000. So that will be about half of what we would anticipate getting in state aid monies for FY 27 or 26 here.
Subcommittee?
Subcommittee voted 2-0 for the operating budget and also 2-0 for the facilities budget.
Questions? Roger?
So the state aid money, obviously, I mean, unless I misread it, it doesn't appear in your budget.
No.
It's in a revolving account because that's where we keep all the, where's that money?
It's in a separate account. Yes, just like our donations. Our donation account isn't in our operating budget. So those amounts are reported to Ways and Means, I believe. There's a form that I have to fill out every year, which I believe is forwarded to Ways and Means as well.
Okay. I guess I was just thinking there's a little bit of a loss of transparency as a result. But in the cover letter, you mentioned the library receiving $16,050 in donations. Is that, was that to the Friends or was that to the library?
So, no, it's not to the Friends, it's to the library.
Okay. Friends have their own money.
The Friends are a separate nonprofit, so we don't report anything on their operations in the municipal budget.
All right. Thanks.
You're welcome. Deb?
Hi.
Hello?
So I just want to make sure I'm clear. So the facilities budget, is that just for the library?
Yes.
Okay. So other, like, departmental expenses, I mean, where are those facilities costs rolling up?
Yeah, thank you. Usually, like in DPW, you'll see a line item for occupancy,
Okay.
so that's.
I don't think I've seen it in any of the budgets we've done thus far.
Yeah, it's a good
so-
question. Do police and fire have that? I'm not sure.
I think they have occupancy.
They must.
They do. I think the small departments don't.
Okay.
But- So I think Michael explained the rationale, but several years ago, to avoid the occupancy from sort of bloating the library budget,
Right.
it was pulled out into its own sort of line item
Yep.
to avoid, the inflation of things and spending more money. And it's unique, and there isn't any other department that has a similar arrangement.
Well, it's the 12% thing is why it was pulled out.
Yeah.
It's so that you don't have to pay, you don't have to be spending 12% of your facilities budget on
Right.
circulatory materials.
I think we'd love to, but we don't want to spend the money at all.
Right.
I'd like,
Sorry, Sam, you had something to say?
The occupancy is, DPW pays for has the occupancy budget for Town Hall, the Annex, the Human Services Building. So it's just
Got it.
police and fire that pay for their own separately, but it's all contracted together.
David? And we'll come back to you.
Back to the state aid again. So again, we decided through the trustees to utilize some of those to restore the program. Where typically has that aid gone? Or what's been the use of the aid
Sure.
historically?
Yeah, so recently we've used it for facilities improvements. So we have targeted about $40,000 for a replacement of the partitions in the Fogelberg programming area. One of the partitions has become inoperable. They've lasted 30 years, which when we brought in some individuals who own these companies, they were pretty impressed. They said that these are usually about 20 years out. So we've gotten our money's worth out of those. But other uses that we've had, we've purchased an upgrade of the audiovisual capacity in the same Fogelberg area. We've also used them for programming and then other special projects. Some we reserve as well for future projects because, it could be quite important if something goes wrong that we're able to replace it sooner rather than later by putting it on maybe a 10-year capital plan for some of these items. But I think that we're going to start looking at getting some of these items on a 10-year capital plan as well. We're also looking at the potential for a future space planning of the library. So not doing a major renovation of the space, but, it would cost money for an architect to come in and tell us a way that we can remix the space a little bit. It's a pretty open floor plan right now, and I'm not interested in making big disruptions to that. But I do think that there are ways that we could, through introducing new furniture or shelving, kind of create some better divisions between spaces. Like if you've been to our children's library space, it's just an open space that bleeds into the front area of the library or the fiction collection in the back. And, kids tend to get away from their parents pretty quick and move throughout the building. So, that and other reasons, mainly because the amount of use of that children's space. I just received a phone call today complaining about the fact that the person couldn't park at the library. And unfortunately, we're victims of our own success in some respects because our story time programming, the attendance has gone up from, about 20 people on average to 60 people on average, just in the last year. And so, that's thanks to our children's librarians that we've hired recently. But, with increased use, that also means that you need to look at footprints that you dedicated in 1996. And a lot has changed in libraries and the use of libraries since then. You're welcome.
I'm going to make sure the minutes reflect that you want to cage in the children's section. We'll be asking for fencing. I got it.
I was going to suggest that they use the community room at the police station.
This side.
Thank you,
Rob.
Mr. Chairman. I'm going to speak as the chair of the library trustees, and the money is there to do the things that Mike had said. It's also there for emergencies, that we used a lot of it during the pandemic so that we could get books to people and get anything that they could get, and increase our digital responses and things like that. And it's always there for us to make the library better. I mean, doing the partitions, doing the AV system that was never a real AV system in our rooms. So that's what it's there for.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I hate to jump on the state aid thing, but I will. Two questions for that. One is, does money spent from that, isn't subject to your 12% requirement, I guess?
No, the 12% requirement only relates to municipal appropriations.
Okay. This is, I guess, a request for Sam et al. I think in general, and we've seen this with other departments too, I think if there's a recurring revenue item like state aid, I think it would be really, there's two purposes for the budget here. One is obviously for us to decide what's, the right appropriation. And I think that's what we're seeing with what we're getting now. But the other is to understand how much money is actually being spent on a function. And that's what we're not seeing by having the state aid not included with this. So what I request is that it would be good on these budget sheets to have a line item saying, things funded by state aid or whatever, and then have an offsetting thing where, state aid subtracts out, so it doesn't show up in the budget, but we understand what's the total expenditure being done is the goal.
Okay. Because I was going to say state aid is, the state aid for the library is covered in the cherry sheet calculation for the overall budget.
Yeah.
So that's where that resides and why it's not within the library budget specifically. It's part of the net out between what we receive from the state versus what the charge that we have to pay back to the state. And that's in the cherry sheet numbers.
And I know it's there. It's just, it's not grouped when we're thinking about it.
A net zero additional thing about what.
Yep, just so we understand just how much is being spent on that function. And related to that, it doesn't apply here, but there's, a number of departments, I'll use police as an example just because I was thinking of it, had an employee that was being funded through a grant program. So again, showing that as an expense and then, have the offsetting, here's the grant paying for it, so it doesn't show up in the budget. But it gives us a better idea of this is the level of expenditures that the department is used to. And if a grant goes away or, some administration doesn't like libraries and all of a sudden we, state aid, for libraries drops, we'll understand that that's going to imply a reduction in services or a need to fund that from other sources somehow. So it sort of gives us a heads up to understand what our exposure might be to that kind of thing also. Thank you.
Chris?
Yeah, to further support what he was just saying is, much like we did with ARPA and the school positions, is knowing that we were going to fund some of these, that we then may want those positions. And we knew ARPA was going to go away. And this same thing when we had the Veterans Department in front of us already is, keep us aware of the situations, because if funding now gets cut from federal or state, we might want to, as a committee, as a town, come and say, well, no, we really want that. And we need to now figure out a way to do that, or at least have the opportunity to have that discussion.
Yeah, my comment is actually, sorry.
No.
To John, I think you have to be very careful about putting something in the budget that increases the bottom line, even if you're going to offset it from a accounting point of view, I think that the 12.5 tax might still apply.
Oh, I would absolutely subtract it off before you even get to the bottom line.
No, you can't even, anyway.
I understand your concern,
I don't
though.
even think you can put it above the line. I think
Yep.
it's got to be an informational
In the
note.
library budget.
Informational note is fine,
Yeah.
however.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
We'll respect the accountant's requirements here.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do ask for the, so basically this cover sheet is what I send to the MBLC when we're doing our reporting. They need that sheet so that we can prove what our municipal funding is. And if we had those additional numbers in there, then that would definitely,
Right, and sorry, just one other important point. As a revolving fund, it carries over into the future. If you put it in the budget, chops off in July.
Yep, I'm not suggesting we change anything, we actually do, strictly information.
In case it does roll over, it accumulates?
Yes.
That's a key question.
Right.
well, I should say that it's kind of funny because it's, each year we get an allotment, and so we spend that account down to zero, and then we move to the next fiscal years.
But does the state gauge your next allotment according to what you spent the previous year?
No.
Just you can.
You can't accumulate, yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do accumulate the money on purpose because of the emergencies and things that we might want to do, or spend $57,000 on an AV system, because that would just blow 1 year. But if we have a few years, this way we have the cushion, so that if the emergency happens, it works.
All for it. That's good.
And it's all under the purview of the trustees, all 6 of us.
Rick?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Under materials and supplies, I just had a question. Hoping you could elaborate on 3 line items: administration, assistant director, and tech specialist, and what those costs are related to.
Yeah, so administration, we have a general supply that we're beginning to purchase from. So that's why you see that number so high, mainly because the administrative assistant purchases those items. So these would be,
But they are supplies, it's all
they're all
supplies, so
supplies,
it's
yes.
not salary or stipend? or-
No, these are just kind of under their
Okay,
purview.
that's all I need to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Deb?
When you were talking about the contracted services, you talked about a couple of the line items that were zeroed out. You wanted to keep them in there because it was programming that you've had to cut back. Hopefully, you'll be able to renew it again sometime in the future. From a staffing perspective, I know you talked about efforts to reduce overtime. With the hours that you have, like, do you do like staggered hours so that you can sort of minimize, rather than everybody working 10 to 6 every day, like, or the hours that we're going beyond 8 hours a day, or obviously over 40 hours a week? Is there any thought or any ability to stagger start and end times for different people so they're not necessarily hitting the overtime threshold?
So overtime isn't people who work over 8 hours. So we're open 10 to 9, Monday through Thursday. There's nobody who works 10 to 9.
Okay.
So overtime, when we're talking about overtime, is typically Sundays and summer Saturdays. That's a major part. It's also paying for vacation coverage and sick time. So people go on vacation, that's when we don't have enough redundancy on a public desk. So we do need to pay overtime for individuals so that public service desks can be staffed. So there's no situation where we're gaining overtime because our 11-hour days are over an 8-hour allotment of people, unless there is someone who's taken vacation who's working that evening shift, say, and then someone who's working the morning shift, it goes through rotation, they've picked it up, now they're going to be working, until the end of the day.
I sat in on this subcommittee meeting, and it reminded me of all of the rec department subcommittee meetings where you talk about level services, but then their services are popular and they're really directly serving residents, and so people want more programming, And then that's by definition not level services anymore, but you don't want to not do more programming for kids or the elderly, or, so it's a real battle to stay in a level services budget while you're so successful and popular that the demand keeps growing.
We're trying to build a smaller parking lot so we can tamp down on it. I'm kidding.
Only smaller cars.
In garage, that's what you need.
It's been floated before.
Anything else on this one?
Sorry, Doug, just
Oh,
one comment
yeah.
about the definition of level service. If you were to define your service as service per resident, then, or service per patron who comes in the library, then it can be level even as the patronage goes up.
Well, it's true, but I'm not sure you want to, we'd have to really think about whether that would be useful.
I know, we're trying to come at this from a financial angle, so that doesn't really work. But anyway, move to approve?
Second.
So motion to approve $1,934,576. Is that the right number? All in favor? Again, opposed? Abstained? 1301.
And motion to approve the facilities budget.
Second?
So all in favor of the facilities budget, that is $100,000. $100,663, sorry.
We would like electricity and heat in the library this year.
Any questions? And we talked about it, but we didn't specifically. Motion to approve? Yes. Do we have a second?
Yes.
All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Okay. You're going to vote on that one?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the DPW, that's not me.
That's, all right. Fair enough. So that's 1400.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mike.
Bye, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Back to the party.
Don't get tomorrow.
All right, so theoretically, we have two sets of minutes, but I got some late suggestions for the 312, plus they came in late. So it may be that we find that it's a 2-week process to get the minutes done. But I did send back significantly revised March 6th minutes. Are we okay with those? They should reflect all those.
Move to approve the minutes of March 6th.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? We're good, 1400. And the 12th, I'd like to push off till next week.
I'm sorry, point of clarification, did you say March 6th or 5th? Did I mishear?
6th.
Isn't it the
Because I
5th?
thought,
Oh, is it the, is it? Oh,
I
that's
thought
my
I said
bad.
what he said, so
5th.
The 5th
5th.
is a Wednesday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Important point of clarification, I appreciate
Should
it.
have been reading it on my own.
All right. Any other, any major reports? Police station, Mike's not here. I think they did have some renderings of fronts of buildings that came out. Looked
Yeah,
pretty
there
cool.
was just nothing new.
Nothing new since last week. High schools, I think somebody asked about the solar panels on the existing buildings. And so I talked to Bob Kuna. There will be a penalty. It's a daily rate for taking them offline, and that rate decreases over time, and so it kind of depends on the timing of it all. There's some benefit or luck that the main controls and the main panel is associated with the upper portion of the school near the district administration. And so that will be staying, and it'll be relatively easy to tie the solar panels on the gym back into that and get them running. But there will be some downtime. And the panels on the part of the roof that is going to be destroyed, they're not sure what happens yet. We don't own them. So whether they're going to want to put them back up or if we have to pay some fee or something there. So.
Okay, thank you.
Fox Hill, any changes?
You want to mention the community forum?
Oh, certainly I will. There's another community forum. Do you have the date? 'Cause
It's the Thursday, March 27, 6:30 to 8 in the auditorium, and if you can't attend, it will be streamed on BCAT.
Yes, so, and it is down to two options, which I think I reported last week. I think that Anything for Fox Hill? Same.
Same, well, almost the same. The detailed design's been submitted to the MSBA, that was news last week. The meeting yesterday, the Fox Hill School Building Committee decided to go with a power purchase agreement for the solar panels on Fox Hill, as opposed to a purchase option and all of that. And it now is up to the school committee to decide, to sort of commit to that, because the school committee is the authorizing body for that. It will have to go to town meeting because it's going to be like a 20-year contract, and as we've seen before, you need anything more than 3 years, town meeting has to approve. I don't foresee a problem with that. But thanks to Ed, the numbers looked out pretty clearly that the PPA option was slightly better in the long term in terms of cash flows and other things. So that part is settled. I think that's fine, good.
So, I'm going to interrupt you, Roger. Related to that, where's the funding going to come from?
The PPA is fully self-funded.
Oh, that's the
Yeah,
point.
funding comes from the PPA to us.
Right, so there is no, we don't have to appropriate any money to engage in that program.
Correct. The,
Good move.
Just have to commit the roof.
yeah, I mean, they get their money because it'll be, there's, we'll be buying the electricity from
I
them.
lost sight of the fact that they own them
Right.
and they get the revenue.
And does that include parking covering also, or we don't know yet?
It does.
The plan was
Yes.
for the full 100% electric covered by solar panels. I imagine in the negotiation with the PPA company, there's multiple suppliers, that will involve everything doing of all the construction costs, the details, the design. The key point in getting the decision made now is that the design processes can be fit into the building schedule. And if there's any consultation between the architects and PPA company as they design the system, it can happen at the right time.
Excellent.
And there's no deferred cost or decisions that really have to get made, that can't be made now, that interfere with the construction process.
I think,
Frank?
Roger, if I may, I think there was also some decision made on how to issue the construction, the design bid build versus,
Yes, when was that decided?
it doesn't matter, but it has been pretty much settled, right?
Well, so in the high school building committee, they decided to do construction at risk.
At risk.
Well,
The Fox Hills.
not exactly, but go ahead.
You're right, that's not the, anyway, the decision about design bid build was made for Fox Hill some months ago.
Okay, all right, so I think none of that matters, except I want to try to get a better handle on what affects the final bid cost, which does reflect in the, sooner rather than later, on how much money we actually have to put out in the debt.
Right.
And we're not going to,
So-
so I think by going at risk, that has some effect on costs.
That's the high school. The high school is, they were headed in the direction of CM at
You're
risk.
right, I'm confusing the two.
Right.
Right.
And that decision has not been made for the high school, though. We
Yeah,
did,
not the high school.
well, no, but the decision that was made was to start filing the forms with the state
For the high school.
to get approved to do construction
Right.
manager. You don't have to use it. Once you get the approval, you can still decide, but it's a long process.
The thrust of what I'm after here is I'm trying to get a better idea for Fox Hill when we actually have real visibility on the true cost, the true indebtedness that we'll be faced with. And it's going to be a while, and I realize it won't affect, as long as we don't go over, it's not going to affect what we approve for the bond and what will probably go into the schedule. But as we start to flow this stuff out, true costs are going to matter.
Right, so I think the architect, the owner, project manager said the other day that in July, we're going to get another update on the estimates based on the construction documentation that they're now developing. They're going to get better, more precise estimates. And then
I think you get
when we
one more.
put that out to bid, we probably will get a number once the contract, when it's put out to bid, we'll get some responses. That's the number that they're gonna try to hit.
Right.
Even within that, they identified, like maybe a month ago, a list of value engineering targets. Like, don't build the canopy across the front of the building, build it 2/3 the size and you'll save this much money. So there are, I think, about 10 or a dozen items that they can identify as, we could save this much money here in these materials or something. There, I think, are maybe 2 options that would cost a little bit more money. So there are built into the process opportunities to save some money, but still, until you get to that point, the estimates are going to be better and they're going to be what they are.
We're not going to be bringing it to Ways and Means as anything to vote on and whatnot, but we're trying to get a hint on what the debt service is going to look like as it flows. And I think what's plugged in is for Fox Hill is 61 million, plus the state aid, which we have to cover and get reimbursed. So I don't expect what we will end up having to pay over the 25 years to change much. That'll make any difference, but if it moved by, $3 million or $5 million, it would have a little bit of an effect. But either way, down would be nice.
Always.
Right. So we're still trying to squeeze all of this in without the debt exclusion and keep everything,
Right, but I think the numbers are just going to have a smaller delta on them as we move forward, but, there's clearly already a not to exceed number.
Yeah, we've got that plugged in.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. Sounds like it's going well.
I can add only that the project schedule was displayed last night, and they have bidding in December of this year. So that's the point when we expect to know more.
December?
December.
Yeah.
Anything else on that? Athletic fields? Once a week, we did not much changes.
There was a meeting last week
Yeah.
with the Conservation Commission, looking for their approval of the notice of intent. So provided we received their approval, that was then going to go to the planning board to make sure the plans were within, were complying with the zoning requirements. So I don't know how that turned out. It was just an email that I received just a few days ago.
Okay.
So hopefully, the next meeting, I think it's going to be contingent on how that all played out.
Okay. Anything else? Motion to approve? Motion to adjourn. Motion to approve this meeting.
I approve adjourning.
I will approve of that.
Second.
All good. Thank you.